Indeed, it's my pleasure to be here today. And let me just start with the theme of this conference about the complexity of our world, the world that we are living. I think the voices and the noises that we'll hear today are all about that is too complex, unpredictable, difficult. We don't know where we are heading. Too many questions and too little answers. And I don't know, will I add to the questions or to the answers? Most probably more to the questions rather than to the answers. But I would like to start from the speech of President Steinmeier today when he was speaking about the complexities of the world, but also mentioned one specific phrase saying that in this new world that we are living, and most probably the internal agendas of specific nations and states are having huge influence on international relations and policies and uncertainties that we're facing. Yes, indeed, I'm not going to speak about things like, yes, after the Berlin Wall was conquered or destroyed, I think the West started not fearing of the East, or the whole idea of communism was forgotten. And I come from a communist country, and I come from theirs, and I'm here to say that it doesn't work. Don't try in this or that form, in this or that country. But I'm going to try to take you even further down. It's not only about geopolitics of big nations or groups or European Union, United States or China or Russia, further down to the nations and further down to the to the institutions, to the parliaments, even further down to the institutions, political parties, up to the quantum, the individual. And I want to just leave with you a feeling that we're living in a completely different world already. Maybe we don't notice that. Maybe we don't speak about that because we are still thinking classically. We are thinking about the big story, which is still there, because the big bodies are still classical. But when you go down to the small elements of the matter, in this case, the matter of public, the things are changing dramatically. And this is where I would like to call it the quantum politics. Okay. The notion you can take as a metaphoric, another way of saying that things are different, or you can take in a form that the classical institutions are becoming less and less important or relevant, and we can discuss about that. Or you can take in a form that quantum technologies, the new technologies, are having huge impact on our lives. Or even further, I think they are changing not only the way we live, but also saying they are also changing the fabric of our societies. Or just a simple thing that we have to be brave in order to come up with non-standard solutions to the problems that we are facing, and so on. So I'll stop there. But all of that started probably around 100 years ago, here in Germany as well. More than 100 years ago, I think, the world of physicists were living a similar situation. I mean, they were all fine, happy with classical mechanics. Everything was explainable, like it was 20 years ago in politics. But then they started discovering features of physics that could not, Newton's classical mechanics could not be explained. So huge confusion, didn't know where we are going. There was a collapse of the world. Things were there, you couldn't explain what's happening. Uncertainty in physics was growing from day to day until physicists realized that they have to change. Not to find something new, but to change the way they think. So instead of thinking classically about objects that are moving from one place to another, when you can't go to the smaller size of the same object, to the atoms, further down, molecules, atom to the elementary particles, the classical logic doesn't work. It's not only about physics. The logic doesn't. What is simultaneous? Can they be in the same place in the same time? So, but I mean, they're not artificial intelligence, the human intelligence, the genius found a way to that, saying that we have to completely look at this problem from a different point of view. And I was saying Germany, because Germany, along with Europe, France and Britain and United States, scientists from those countries were the ones that created quantum mechanics. So I think if you start applying that further down the history, because of the innovations that came from quantum mechanics, we're starting living a completely different life. We started flying to the moon. We started creating nuclear power plants. We created something which is here in my pocket, which has changed our life. Yeah? This is quantum physics as well. We have learned to use the nuclear power for good and for bad, to use the solar energy, which is so little, in a proper way, and so on and so forth. And we are going to use it even further and further and further, because quantum technologies, quantum lasers, quantum computing are dramatically going to change us. But they are changing not only the equipment technology, they are changing our societies as well. Okay, this one. What does this mean? There's me, and there's me. I'm the material one, and this is the virtual one. A big part of my life is virtual. So I live a material life, and I live in a material world which is regulated with specifics, understandings. It's a classical world. But I also live here, which is virtual. I'm interconnected worldwide. My interconnection is with the speed of light. And my interconnections are so much, and they're unpredictable. And they are not ruled by classical ways. This is a world without regulation. But this is a big part of our life. So we humans now live two lives. One a virtual one, the other a material one. Do we like it or not, the virtuality grows every day. Do we like it or not, it is going to have impact on our material life, and it is having impact on our material life in many ways. Well, let me give you, or ask you a question. Does this impact how democracy is exercised? Of course, yes. Even today, in many countries, including in my own country, the prime minister, not me, because I've done my computer things when I was young and I was professor of mathematics, is online, Facebook, 3-4 times a day. And people want this. So in a classical world, how do you exercise democracy? From election to election, meeting your constituency every 3-4 months, and you get a green light by those who are voting for you for another 4 or 5 years to exercise something yet. But this new world is democracy every day. Daily, hourly, minutely, and this is going to be more and more and more. So it changes how we are going to exercise democracy. And as a result of that, we see the effects of that. The effects that I don't want to give an as a quantum politician, President Trump, who is quantum in his behavior, who is quantum in his interaction, who is using the virtual world very effectively. I'm not judging, I'm just saying what is. The same happened with President Macron, with many other leaders which are coming, in my own country as well. When I was elected president, in 2 weeks after my inauguration, in 2 weeks' time, we had a revolution in a form that the former president wanted to become the prime minister. 10 people in the north of Armenia started walking. But they were not only physically walking, but they were walking also in the virtual space. So 10 people, because of this virtuality, became 200,000 on the main square of Yerevan, and 300,000. There was no ideology, no political party, no organization, nothing. And this is not unique in this world. So, partially, we are quantum already, because we live in the virtual world. Another example, politics and entertainment. They were always together, starting from old Egypt, coming to the Caesars, the gladiators, you name it. But now it's different. It's merging. Politics becomes sometimes entertainment, and entertainers become politicians. Another feature that is quantum, absolutely quantum. I think in order to keep your connection with your electorate, you entertain them daily with new idea, with new thing in a completely different world. And this is going to grow. Another feature of that, global risks. This is where I started thinking about this. When years ago I was asked by the World Economic Forum to chair or to start and chair the Global Energy Security Council and then also global risks. And also I was asked by Wolfgang to join the Euro-Atlantic Security Initiative. Then I started discovering that when you speak about global risks, there are more and more, they are becoming non-classical. Examples, a lot of them. Viruses, how do you spread? They start somewhere in China. We're lucky that incubation is 14 days. Imagine the incubation is a month or 2. The effect will be completely quantum. It will start in China. The next cases will be in Argentina, in Canada, worldwide. They will not start moving gradually from China, step by step, with a specific classical speed. No. One case here, not next one. Why? Because we live in a world that we're no longer 2.5 billion people, we're 10, interconnected, interlinked, intertraveling, and the world has become a place of individuals getting very quickly interacted and so on. Terrorism, it's quantum. You no longer need a political party, a religious group, a training ground, because everything is here in the virtual world. Everything is fast, quantum. So even if you kill somewhere in Afghanistan, the leaders, if they're organized well in here, in the virtual world, what you need a young man somewhere in Europe to be triggered his mind by a specific words. They should be ready internally or dissatisfied or unhappy, and then you trigger a terrorist. You can teach him here, you can move him, and he can act it. So how do you fight it? By sending troops, bombing, what? So it's quantum. So in order to fight terrorism, we have to rediscover the new world that we are living, and we have to try to understand. The amazing thing that I, as a physicist, I'm not speaking about mathematics here, because you'll be all bored, but the amazing thing that I found in doing my research is that because of the number, interconnectivity, I think one important thing that works there is that a lot of things could be explained, could be predicted, if we have a completely different philosophy or logic, how to approach also social life or politics. Like 100 years ago, like people like Heisenberg, Paul Dirac, later Richard Feynman and others, have completely redesigned the human logic, the way we look at nature. The same way we will be forced in the future, I think, to start redesigning the way we think and analyze, predict in a completely different form things that are happening around us. Starting events, politics, how you manage it, and parallels will be phenomenal. The example that I brought to you of a revolution in Armenia is a classical fusion of elementary particles. You have plutonium or uranium, which is of a specific mass. In the social society is a specific mass of unhappy people. And you don't need any ideology, you need just a couple of high energy, energized particles. They come and hit. And what you get, a chain reaction, is the same is happening in a human system. Highly energized, 10 young men, no ideology, nothing, just talking about unhappiness. They were not talking about that we will improve the economy, the GDP will be growing this much, or we will have relations with our neighbors. No, just unhappiness. Okay? Specific mass of unhappiness, highly energized particles, you get a revolution, chain reaction. And think about how many politicians you know now that are entertainers, and how many entertainers you already know that have become, even in Europe, politicians. So the world is changing. And there is no amazing. It's not amazing because it's interesting. We are a part of nature. Why on earth quantum mechanics can explain not only individual particles, but also their connections or clusters, groups like atoms, molecules, it's run by that. Why on earth it cannot explain, not quantum mechanics, but that theory that takes care with the similar logic, why it cannot explain human society? I do believe it can, because we are also a part of nature, and our behavior, maybe individually we're different, but the moment we're interconnected, we interact with the speed of light, individual becomes important. This is the new world of a quantum, the world of the power of an individual. Then you can start using laws of nature on human society. We will be explaining more, and a lot of things in the future will be explainable through a different logic. There'll be more about probability of this or that happening rather than determination or classicals that, yes, if you throw this thing from here or there, there'll be a specific path. Any politician in a modern world will be affected with the changes around him daily, and his decisions, you can judge about his decisions depending. No, the judgment will be not deterministic, but with a probability that this is going to happen with this sort of. For the moment, we're living in a semi-classical, semi-quantum world, and we don't recognize that. And that's why there is a solution. There is a pandemic in China, so what to do? Because it's big, we do classical solution. We stop the gates. We don't allow Chinese to come to Europe. It's a classical solution. There is a terrorism in Afghanistan spreading. What do? We bomb Afghanistan. Have we resolved the issue with terrorism? No. The next day you get the terrorism somewhere else. So, welcome to the new quantum world. And it's fascinating. Thank you very much.